Hey there, Contractor Kev here with Overseas Contractor Academy, and today I am filming my first video here in Kuwait. So pretty excited about it. Good information in this video. It should be pretty poppin'. Hey man, let's do this thing. Okay, so the first thing is Contractor Kev is indeed living proof of what I've been trying to say. I am on six figures, I am in Kuwait. So yes, overseas in the Middle East, working as a contractor, making six figures again. So this is proof that yes, guess what? I'm not just bullshitting you, I'm not just telling stories. This is reality, this is life. So not everyone in Kuwait is on six figures, and that is because Kuwait is very much an easy place to stay. There's no incoming fire, very little danger. Because of that, there's not a lot of uplifts involved, and it'll also depend on the amount of hours that you work. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is living conditions. And in Kuwait, if you are a contractor, most of the time you're going to live off base in an apartment, which is where I'm at right now. Hopefully in the future I'm going to be doing a video of the apartment so you can kind of see what a typical apartment looks like, but for now this is more the intro video to Kuwait and just trying to piece it together with the light set I finally ordered, and it showed up here in the background and all that, the big tripod in front of me. It all takes time to put together when you're doing these videos. It's a lot of effort. I know it's you watch it and it's 5 or 10 or 12 minutes, but believe me, for every video I make, at one point I used to say it takes 10 hours, but really it's probably, once me and Sunny D start talking about it after the fact, it's more the 30 to 40 hour range just to put together one video on here. So it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time to get all the equipment in place and all that. So at any rate, today's video is just really the basics of Kuwait, and maybe in the future, in the next couple weeks, I can do a video of the apartment. But the point is, you will more than likely be off base in an apartment. And so there's two ways that's going to go down. For expats, the vast majority of people are in a shared apartment where you'll have your own bedroom and your own bathroom. So it's like your bedroom and you've got an ensuite bathroom that's, you know, a really big bedroom that it's big enough to have maybe a computer desk in there, a television, game system, whatever. It would be, you know, about as big as a room on base, let's say. But you got your own bathroom, and then of course out in you'd have a shared living room and a shared kitchen, so if you felt like cooking or you wanted to watch a movie in the living room, whatever. But if you don't want to be around somebody, your room's going to be big enough to have a sitting chair and play video games, or sit at your computer and surf the internet, whatever you want to do. So most people are in a shared apartment. If you are higher level or you're specialized or you just got like a really good company you're working for, they'll put you in your own apartment. So I've kind of lucked out. I am in my own apartment here, so that's pretty cool. Last thing about apartments though, if you're in a shared apartment, the vast majority of the time it's going to be that the company directly pays for the apartment. So it's basically invisible transaction to you. You just live there and they directly bill the company and the company pays. But if you have an individual apartment, most of the time it's up to you to find that apartment. Whereas a lot of the shared apartments, they're just going to tell you, you know, there's going to be someone's job to decide where all the incoming people, you're going into this apartment, you're going to be driving this car, blah, blah, blah. We'll get to vehicles in a minute. But when you come here as a single tenant in an apartment, they give you freedom to find your own. Now that's good and bad, because you know, you don't know this place, you don't know the city, and you don't know what's a good place and what's not. So luckily for me, I had a co-worker that lived in a building that just happened to have a really nice open apartment in it. You got to pay out of pocket, and then you file with your company every month and they put the money back in your paycheck. So that's important to know when you first come here. If you're going to be in a single apartment ask the question, is this direct bill to the company, or am I paying the apartment first and getting reimbursed? Okay, the next topic I want to talk about is obviously something Contractor Kev knows a little bit about: food. When it comes to food here, you're going to be on your job 10 to 12 hours a day, probably on the base. And when that is the case, you're going to eat probably 1 or 2 of your meals a day out of the base dining facility. Now, because you live off base, the majority of the time your contract's going to state you have to pay for your meals. The good thing is, though, you get good food, and it's ballpark, it's a little bit less than $5 for breakfast. It's, I think, $6 for lunch, and then $5 and something and change for dinner. It's a little bit less than $5 for breakfast. It's, I think, $6 for lunch, and then $5 and something and change for dinner. So it is very cheap, and they give you the old styrofoam clamshell if you get a takeaway, which most of the time I do because I don't have time to sit there and eat. Basically, you've got a big choice. And then, of course, every DFAC has a huge salad bar down the middle of the building. So what you do is they give you a big clamshell and a small little styrofoam clamshell. You get your main meal, whether you choose fast food or a sandwich or some kind of Indian food line, or they usually put some kind of separate line that changes. So sometimes it's Indian, sometimes vegetarian, sometimes it's quesadilla bar, which is damn good. Whatever. So that other line is always changing, but you get your main meal in the big clamshell, and then you got the small clamshell for salad, which you can put enough salad in one of those things to have 2 salads, which is what I do. So for $5, I typically actually get 2 meals. So $2.50 a meal, you can't beat that with a bat. But you will get sick of eating at the DFAC, and so the good thing is there are big international chains, grocery chains here, that will sell all the international products. You may not find every single little thing you like from home, but you can find most of it. For me, I just go there to pick up odds and ends to keep around the house, chips and crackers and sodas and that kind of stuff. There's a PX on the base, you can buy that kind of stuff too, but obviously in the grocery store, a lot more selection and all that. So I go to the grocery store and I keep like stuff for sandwiches and microwave stuff and all that kind of crap here at the house. But then the third option on food, if you don't go to the base dining facility, also known as a DFAC, DFAC, so you'll hear DFAC a lot. When you get a job overseas, DFAC just means it's a putting together dining and facility, DFAC. So if you're not going to DFAC and you are not going to eat at home, then the third option is restaurants. Now the good news story here is there are a ton of restaurants here in Kuwait City if you're staying in the right areas. So just in my little area, there's a lot of Americans that stick around here that live in this area. So there's Johnny Rockets, a TGI Fridays, the Cheesecake Factory, a Texas Roadhouse, of course McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Hardee's. All that is literally within about 1 mile of my apartment. So there is 3 options. Most of your meals are going to be at the dining facility. The second option is to hit the grocery store and have stuff to eat at home. And your last option is the ton of restaurants that are around. So you got everything basically. You got a lot of options. You're not going to be starved for food here. Okay, so let's talk about transport for a second. When you live and work in Kuwait, odds are you and your roommate are going to share a company vehicle, and that's how you're going to get back and forth to work. Most of the contracts are for 2 people to share. There are some contracts that are for 3 people to share. From the place where I live, which is where most Americans live, it's ballpark 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes each way. And then, of course, you got to get on base and get the vehicle searched and blah, blah, blah. So that's, you're going back and forth to work basically in the company vehicle. I don't think I've ever even seen any deviation from that. That is pretty much standard on every contract, and that's how everyone gets around here. So let's really quickly talk about daily life. So daily life in Kuwait, your work is the main reason you're here. And so you are going to have your work life is going to take up the vast majority of most of your days. 13, 14 hours, you're up on the base. So that's your daily life, is you're basically just working. There's not a lot of time after work to go do a lot. You've generally got maybe an hour or two on your regular working days that you could do something on your own. So whether that's play a video game or go check out a restaurant, call home to your family if they're not here, whatever it is you want to do. You've got ballpark an hour to 2 hours at night before you need to crash and get your sleep so that you can wake up and do it all again. And when you're not working, if you're off base, then that's your day off, is you're going to be cleaning your crap and then doing your laundry and that kind of stuff early on in the day, because there's just not time to do that during the weekend. And then running any errands you want to run, and then of course work in something fun to do. Even if all it is like you go down to Starbucks and get a drink and just chill out for a little bit. Or you go to one of the malls and check out a movie, because they do have really upscale nice malls here with movies shown in English. Yes, it is flippin' hot here, man. It is so freaking hot, like ridiculously hot, and the humidity level is high. Don't believe like, oh, it's a dry heat. Yes, that is true in the summers in Afghanistan and Iraq, but Kuwait, you're down on the water, and believe me, it's humid as hell down here. So you get the really harsh humidity with like, so what I've experienced so far is temperatures from 110 to 120 with really high levels of humidity. The temperature it feels like, it's been as high as 125 to 130 is what it feels like here. And that is some crap. Like, you don't want to be going outside for anything when it's feeling like that. October, November, it starts to cool off, and then March, it starts heating up again. It is very, very hot. But, you know, obviously you combat that by mostly staying inside.
No pleasure, no rapture, no exquisite sin greater than central air.
Another thing is the driving here. As I said, you're going to be commuting to work, and the driving here is terrible. The Kuwaitis have a lot of money, and so they typically buy very large luxury SUVs, or they buy sports cars, or sometimes even luxury exotics. And the issue is, it really is about generations. And so most of us Americans grew up watching our parents drive. And so you learn by watching them from the time you were a child. You watched Dad drive, or you watched Mom drive, and you saw how she reacted, and so you adopted a lot of that. You processed it even when you weren't driving. And then you went, you know, to a driving school when it became your time. You're 15, 16 years old. So you went to a driving school. And you learned, and so then you practiced for a while, and finally now here you are years later, and you kind of have a decent ability to drive. The Kuwaitis did not grow up watching their parents drive, unfortunately. So they don't have all those years, 15, 16, 17 years of formative experience watching how it's done well. Like, no, they don't have that. They just like, poof, here's a Land Rover. They will do absolutely crazy things on the road that for you as a Western driver will just seem crazy. And so what you have to do is drive very defensively here. I've literally been in the fast lane doing 85 miles an hour down the freeway and had guys coming, just flashing the lights, barreling down probably about 120 or so. And there's traffic, there's full friggin' traffic around, and they will whip into the emergency lane to pass people at 120. And I'm just like, this is death waiting to happen. They go around blind curves, right in the wrong lane, just everything. You just gotta be on the defensive, that's all I can tell you. There's no alcohol here, so just be aware of that. If you come here, it's a dry country, no alcohol at all. Obviously, like everywhere in the world, there's a black market for such things. Personally, I don't need alcohol that bad to where I'm gonna pay $200 for a bottle of Jack Daniels. Even if I'm making $100,000 a year, that ain't worth it to me. I'll just not drink and not have a problem. But Kuwait is dry. It's good to, you know, it means that there's no public drunkenness. There's no idiots out there driving drunk. They're just naturally that crazy when they drive. But, you know, there's no one walking around the streets drunk or high or causing problems, because Kuwait don't have that kind of stuff going on. They ain't tolerating that. And the last thing, you definitely want to bear in mind that Kuwait is expensive. I paid about $20 to have a breakfast. Now, maybe I've been living in Southeast Asia for too long, or spent too much time in Latin America, but $20 is definitely an all-day worth of money kind of situation in you know, Thailand or Philippines or Panama or Costa Rica, any places I like to hang out. So $20 just for breakfast, man, I couldn't believe it. But it was a place I wanted to try, and supposedly it was a breakfast specialty place, so why not? I'll give it a try. I got the money. So I went down and did it. So, but Kuwait is expensive, and you got to bear that in mind. So just going to like Texas Roadhouse, you can't even buy a beer with your steak, and yet it could run you easily $40–50. If I can go out somewhere, like get some good food, some spicy food and a cold beer, dude, I'm all about it. But I am not the kind that enjoys dropping $100 on a dinner or a lunch somewhere just on the whim. Like, no, that ain't me, quite honestly. I try to keep it simple with that kind of stuff. So, but at any rate, Kuwait's expensive. The gas is cheap. The taxis are cheap. Apartments super expensive. Food can be cheap, but if you go to a sit-down restaurant, it's going to be expensive. For me, being over here is all about what I save. So bear that in mind. Just try to keep the goal in mind. What's the point of being over here? You know, to me, the point of being over here is to save like massively. And so, you know, if I'm making 100,000, by the time I leave here, just 1 year from now, I'll have 85,000 of it stacked in the bank. Okay, so thanks for watching. As always, hit the like or subscribe button if you like what we're doing. Hope this helps somebody. If you get a job offer in Kuwait, as always, you know, hit us up in the comments if you got any questions or whatever. Hey, I got a job offer in Kuwait. Does this sound right? Does this sound cool? What questions should I ask? I'm always up for interacting with people, so use the comments box and let's talk.